Hey everybody, it's Daniel, your favorite of the LA Meekly hosts.
I'm here too.
Not now. Before we start the show, we want to introduce our very first sponsor for the show, the first sponsor that actually knows that they are sponsoring us. The name of this sponsor is ForkSpot. Who said there's no such thing as free lunch? With ForkSpot, it's happy hour every hour. ForkSpot is a new food ordering app started right here in LA. We like that. Greg silently nodded in agreement.
Yeah.
If he says too many words in this, he gets some of the money for the sponsorship, and I won't let him. Stop.
Call me Ishmael. I'm going to do all of the. I'm going to read all of Moby Dick.
You get 800,000 words. ForkSpot is a new food ordering app started right here in LA, like I said, that allows you to order food in advance straight from the app. On top of that, ForkSpot has a reward system for every restaurant you visit in their app, which means that if you visit the same place 5 times, you're going to get $5 worth of credit to eat there again, or a different place. On top of that, ForkSpot also has an exclusive partnership with these restaurants to offer you up to 30% off in discounts when you dine there. Right now, ForkSpot is active in LA and San Diego, but is soon coming to such unimportant places as Seattle, Chicago, and New York City. Listeners of our show can use promo code MEEKLY, MEEKLY, to get a $15 credit immediately. Again, that code is MEEKLY to get a $15 credit immediately. No exclusions, no minimums, just $15 to gorge yourself and feel great about it at your favorite restaurant using the ForkSpot app. It's available for download now in the App Store or on Google Play or at forkspot.com. That name again is ForkSpot. Offer code MEEKLY. On with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the LA Meekly podcast. We've been noticing that we've been getting some new listeners. Hello, how's it going? So we're going to take this time up top to just give you a rundown of what our episodes are like, because some might be confused or put off by our format. So here's the recipe of an LA Meekly episode. It starts with a cold open comedy intro that's wacky and unrelated. It has nothing to do with the rest of the episode. We just like doing it. It's not for everybody, so bear with it or fast forward. It's up to you. After that, we both talk about something we've done in the city in the last month, and then we go on to answer a listener question. Finally, we dive into the meat of our episode and talk about the actual history. But again, after our intros, the rest of the episode isn't that wacky. Speaking of meat, I'm feeling kind of hungry. I got this here sandwich, but I've forgotten to put mustard on it. Could you pass me some of that mustard that's beside you?
Yeah, okay. Oh no, I accidentally put the mustard next to this can of bright yellow paint. Boy, if I had given that to you on accident, that would have been pretty wacky and unrelated, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, they're clearly labeled, so.
Oh yeah. Here's the mustard.
So back to listener questions. We're always looking to hear from our fans and answer questions on air. You can hit us up on any of our social media accounts or email us at la.meekly@gmail.com. Some sample questions we've got. What's your favorite urban legend of the city? Mine personally, I love the legend of the lizard people living underground.
You know, there's a lizard above the ground right here. He may not be a person, but he's a person to me. He's my new pet, Komodo. He's a Gila monster. Certainly would wreak havoc in here if he were to get loose.
Do you have a permit to own that?
Yeah, he's got all his shots.
Yeah, well, keep it away from me. So a little on how we cover history. We take a really broad subject, such as the city's water or the mission system, and then we break it up so we can both cover smaller topics within and then share what we learned with each other and you.
Breaking up just like the space-time continuum by a young Martin McFly.
I see what you're doing, and don't. I don't want people to get the right idea of us. It's too early in the episode. That's not how you reel in a sucker.
You're right. Maybe a little music. I can put on this here record by Huey Lewis, and you can get back to talking about the future of this podcast.
We never were.
I know, but I thought you were going to, and I already wrote the line.
Anyways, we've recently hit our 60th episode, which is huge to us, and we're making our push month by month to triple digits.
You know, maybe for the 100th intro, we should hire a professional Mary Pickford impersonator to be in it. We talk about her so much.
Hey, that's actually a good idea.
And she's trying to conduct a mariachi orchestra while also eating the world's largest falafel.
Genius! And it's also a murder mystery with 7 acts. Oh, I can't wait till the 100th episode.
Why wait for the 100th episode when we could do it now?
The Harlem Globetrotters, the Radio City Music Hall Rockettes, and the 110th United States Congress.
Yeah, let's dance! We just want to make you ha-ha before we do the podcast. There's no songs in that already turned this off, but we've been doing this a long time. We don't get a paycheck. Oh yeah, we don't have the rights to this.
And don't forget to rate and review. Welcome to a hallway of a building that was open at CSUN.
We are sitting on the floor, if you didn't see the picture on our Instagram about a week ago.
As I was saying before, we watched one Japanese movie, and this is all we want to do now.
We watched Seven Samurai, and now we feel like we always have to sit on the floor.
We could be the 8th and 9th. I missed a number. No, I didn't. I got numbers. We could be the 8th and 9th Samurai.
We could be 8.5 Samurai. My favorite Italian-Japanese movie, a spaghetti western. You might hear a weird buzzing at parts in this episode. We're sitting in there's not only a light above us, there's a electrical cabinet right behind Greg that says danger, don't record podcasts.
And there's also a framed printed thing that says thank you for keeping this area clean.
So this is going to be a very clean episode.
Very clean. I'm not going to say the F word, the S word, the 69 word. I'm not going to say any of them. I'm clean boy today. I'm very sick.
Yeah, Greg's also sick.
I'm sick. I was wearing a mask for a little bit. I have a glove on that's covered in paint thinner. Hi, Greg.
I thought you were doing an impression of your favorite pop star. Rod Stewart.
Smokey Robinson.
I like how both of our ideas of pop stars that aren't Michael Jackson are even older than Michael Jackson. And arguably not pop stars.
Smokey Robinson is a pop star. Rod Stewart's not. He's a rock god.
He's a pop god.
If you think I'm sexy, wait.
Do you think I'm sexy?
No, it's not. It's come on, sugar, let me know. But there's a thing in the middle.
If you like my body. If you like my body.
Number 1, if you like my body. Number 2, if you think I'm sexy. Number 3, come let me know.
2 questions.
I got 2 questions.
2 questions and a command.
That's the name of my, doesn't matter. All right.
It's the name of my reference. I know we had our first sponsor at this episode, which is very exciting. I'm very looking forward to using $15 worth of food.
Me and my girlfriend are going to abuse that this weekend.
Yeah. We're going to open so many different email accounts just to use this.
I have all those burner credit cards that I've stolen from cars. I'm going to start using them.
Finally.
So we don't mean that.
So we also, this isn't a sponsor, but this episode we are doing in tandem cooperation with another LA entity, LA cultural entity, which is Life Hacks LA.
Very important blog. Is it a blog?
They have a website and they have their Instagram, which
I've been referring to it as a blog to everybody, so sorry.
Everything's a blog.
Yeah. What's this podcast, a blog?
Are you reading the latest blog by Robert Lerman or whatever? Ludlum, that's the name.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyway, we're not working with Robert Lerman Ludlum.
And we never will.
Buzz Ludlum. Life Hacks LA. Here's the thing. This is my new segment. Here's the thing. We're always looking for new topics, like everywhere. Like whenever I'm reading LA Magazine, LA Weekly, anything LA related, like, oh, that's interesting. I'll write that down for a new topic for an episode or anything just to cover. And following Life Hacks LA, which we do, it basically is like a suggestion every single day for a topic. They cover anything in the city, any interesting, unknown, even known thing in the city, and just suggestions of stuff to do, and also really nice pictures. But just like you will learn so much about the city just following this Instagram account, which is great.
And like you'll either run into stuff that you don't know and you get curious about, or you run into something that you've done a million times and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. Like,
I want to do that again.
Yeah, exactly. They make like stuff that I don't like look good. Like I don't want to go to Santa Monica Pier, but then they show a picture. I'm like, oh man, I haven't been there in a while, huh? Wow. Because
we were talking with them about it, and they even like some of the topics I cover, they suggested. Like I didn't know about a couple of these things, and he emailed me about it, and it's great, and they're really interesting. You have to follow.
Yeah, it's worth the follow.
It's
it really
worth following. So that's Lifehacks LA on Instagram. Lifehacksla.com is a website, and they're also on Facebook. I was looking through it. You can type in the sort of thing you're looking for, like history or food, and it'll show you like, oh, there's this, and this, and it has like on a map where it is and when it's open and stuff like that.
Those maps are super helpful too.
I love those maps.
Yeah, I know.
They also
see clumps.
I like big clumps of red warty things on a map. They've been doing these giveaways a lot recently. I think they just gave away a trip to Mexico.
Oh, okay. I'll go.
Not to us.
Oh, no, never. It'll never be to us.
We'll never make it to Mexico. So yeah, Life Hacks LA, definitely follow it. Yeah. Absolutely follow it. It's really great. So now, that was a few things we've talked about. What have you done in the last, what did you do this December?
We went on a double date.
Oh yeah,
to Musso Frank's.
Oh, that was you.
Oh, that was OG. We went on a double date to celebrate my birthday, which I gave to my girlfriend, and then your engagement. We went to Musso Frank's,
which I gave to your birthday.
Which you gave to my birthday.
You gave to your girlfriend.
Yeah, we went together to Musso Frank's, and it's beautiful, especially at Christmas time because it's just darker and the lights.
First of all, it took me 45 minutes to park.
It did. It was hard to park.
It was so crowded, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
A lot of fun. We didn't the red jackets, the pins,
just the atmosphere and everything. Just being in an old bar, knowing that Raymond Chandler was probably there drunk off, and they had to drag him out of a booth somewhere.
The three of you got martinis, which were unbelievably incredibly strong. I took a sip.
It was so good. And you get your martini, and then they give you like a glass of whatever.
Of martini.
A martini. It's like a $14 martini, but then I got 2 martinis from it.
Yeah.
And then you got
the Musso and Frank strawberry tortin.
Jesus. Old food.
It was really good.
It looked really good.
It's like a strawberry cream sort of cake, but instead of like cake, it's like a pastry, like coconutty pastry.
Yeah.
It was really,
it looked
very,
really good.
very good.
It was very old.
I know. I was thinking afterwards, I probably should have let Greg and Ada have some, but Greg's probably going to get sick in a couple weeks. He shouldn't have any.
And then after that, my girlfriend found a speakeasy called No Vacancy, and it was around the corner, and then we had to walk through this house that was like just behind. It wasn't the crossroads of the world, but it reminded me of that.
Yeah,
it's like a weird
intersection.
The intersection of crossroads and the world. We had to wait in line, but I was wearing a Tor Johnson pin, and some guy had questions about that.
Yeah, the bouncer who was like half our size.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like a fourth of my size. Half of your size is a fourth
half my size, so he must have been like, I don't know, 6'1". The most exciting thing about it was getting into it. And then once we were settled in, I'm like, I'd rather go back to Musso and Frank's.
Yeah.
But it was nice.
It was an interesting thing. I kind of wish like we had been able to see more of the house, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it's not my...
It is not your thing.
It's not my thing. Like
I've always
screaming to you about whatever I was...
I think we were talking about Star Trek. You were telling me about Star Trek that you want to see.
I think in terms of what you can do in terms of that on Hollywood Boulevard, that's definitely one of the better things.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, you've already had your one thing. You can't choose 2.
That was one night.
My favorite thing of the month was that one night. A night to remember.
What'd you do?
I sunk the Titanic. My thing, which again, I feel bad because I keep picking things like, well, this I did, but you can't do it till next year. Mm-hmm. Every year I go to the holiday celebration at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion on Christmas Eve,
right,
which is really great. It's you have to get there kind of early because it's a 3-hour show now it's from 3 to 6, but it used to be when I was younger and way before that when I was pre-young, Neil Young. It used to be a 12-hour show, so you could, but you wouldn't stay the whole time.
Yeah,
I see everything through. You could just like come in and out, like, we'll stay for a couple hours and go to the next thing. But anyway, it's local acts from around the city doing Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa music, and they have a lot of choirs, which those parts I tend to sleep through, but they sing all these Christmas carols.
They go out there and they're jingling bells and
they're jingling, ring ting tingling too.
Some kind of animal with a nose ailment.
Speaking of which, when I was in line, because they have performers in line, and the Bob Baker Theater was doing a show right in front of us, and once the show was over, they had like all the puppets behind this thing, and I wanted to go look at the puppets, so I went around and I was going to take a picture of like this just hanging there Santa and Rudolph.
And this was when you were a young boy?
No, this was 4 days ago.
I wanted you to just say it.
No, it was 2 days ago.
I saw the puppets, so I thought I'd take a picture with the puppets. Me, an adult man.
Are these things real? So I went, and the guy was like, "Do you want a picture with it?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "Well, yeah." And he me, little boy me. He let me pick which puppet, so I took a puppet with the snowman because it was the least religious of all of them. But anyway, the show itself, like they had ballet folklorico, they had Filipino dances, they had Japanese drumming, they have ukulele stuff. Like every year it's different. The big finale is an all-female mariachi band.
Oh, cool.
It's really good. I recommend, and it's free. That's the thing. When they made the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, one of the guys, Kenneth Hahn, specified like, we can do this, but there has to be one day a year that is free to the whole city, and this is it. And it's
perfect.
really good.
That's one of those things where, like, kind of a night on Broadway where you
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Without having to spend money, you can get a look at all these beautiful buildings that you usually don't get a chance to.
It's such a nice building.
Yeah.
Also, like because they used to have the Oscars there, and it's like the current home of the opera. Like it's a very, it's Wayne. It's very Bruce Wayne. Do it next December. I recommend it, but don't get in line ahead of me.
You do it.
No, you do it.
You do it.
Yeah, shut up. You do it. So yeah, those are the things we did from last month.
It was a good cold month, and I didn't get sick one time, except Christmas Day.
Someone had too many figgy puddings. I still don't know what that is. So now let's go to our listener question.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so before we get into the new one, our listener wasn't satisfied with my answer last time. She sends me an email saying, I hate your answer. She sends you an email saying, I want to go on a date with you and your girlfriend. She sent me a picture. I sent that picture to a park ranger at Griffith Park, and they responded to me. This is from Lynn Kanan, who is a park ranger there. The thing she was talking about, that graded area in the question behind Griffith Park, which wasn't the Zoodoo place or whatever I hypothesized it was. That's the Toyon Canyon landfill. It's closed now and is slowly being returned to parkland.
Oh, okay.
So it was a landfill, but it's being reconverted back into not trash.
I liked it better when it was trash. This city's changing every minute.
Gentrifying our trash now. Whoa, I can't afford to live in trash anymore. There's some closure for that last month's question. Now let's go to this month. This one's from Brian Cox.
Good old Brian Cox.
Friend of the show.
Nice beard. Nice boy.
So he sent this to us on Facebook. What's the strangest story you've heard relating to Skid Row? Homelessness.
Before I get into what a flash came to my brain, but I'd like to just mention a couple experiences, or just maybe one. I was there one time, I think on like 4th near Alameda, and it was just beginning to rain, and I saw everybody who was on the streets having to pack up and get ready for the rain, and it reminded me of like, oh yeah, this is like, imagine everything you own getting wet. Yeah. The sadness and the seriousness of the rain to people
I know.
who live on the streets is so sad.
When I was thinking about this question, I was like, well, what I see as the strangest thing is actually a national tragedy. Yeah. Like it's horrible.
Yeah. The fact that there's a stretch of road in downtown where there's just people out in the street, and that's where you go when you're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean. I was looking up stuff online. There was one guy said he was a bouncer at a bar, and they were like closing up, and these two guys walked towards him, and one of them stopped to talk to him, and the other guy kept walking, and then when he was like out of earshot, the guy was like, that person was about to take me around the corner and mug me. Thanks for stopping that. Well, there's also the Cecil Hotel, everything. Yeah. That's probably the strangest thing I've heard. But
let's not forget the Greyhound where Richard Ramirez also hung out, which is at the outskirts of Skid Row. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily call it Skid Row, but it's...
I was thinking about the times you've told me that you've seen people just defecating on the street. Yeah. I thought that's pretty strange. My experience on Skid Row was I was walking across the street, and this guy walked past me, and just as the cheeriest I've ever seen anybody, he went, "Hello, white devil," and then he walked right past me. That was strange.
It's some funny that you can go to China and have the same experience.
It's a small world. It's a small world for a white person.
He said, what's the weirdest thing that happened on Skid Row? And my brain flashed like, wasn't there someone called the Skid Row Slasher? And there was.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, there was a killer in the streets
of Los Angeles. How much of this do you have?
Well, in 1974, there was a guy going around killing transients, and he was called the Skid Row Slasher, not to be confused with the Skid Row Stabber, which is another guy. This guy is a little bit more serious. In total, the Skid Row Slasher killed 9 people, but attacked 10.
When was this?
Between October and November 1974, all along Skid Row and a little bit in Hollywood, too. The 10th victim was a custodian employed by the county named William Graham. He was found slumped over a park bench at City Hall Plaza, a little grass area across from police headquarters. Yeah. He was found there. The other 9 were homeless people who had no money, so these crimes were not motivated by that factor. He slashed their throats or he stabbed them. The first victim, Charles Jackson, was killed and left near Central Library. But is that weird? I mean, it's...
I wouldn't say it's weird. I'd say it's strange.
It's sad and it's morbid, but is it weird? Well... All the bodies were found with a cup of blood next to them, and their bodies were surrounded by a circle of salt. So the media obviously thought it was some sort of satanic ritual, but I can't confirm that. It was also said, but I can't confirm this, that all the victims' shoes were removed and they were found facing the bodies. No idea what that's about. I haven't done extensive research on this, but...
It's not our job to do that.
The name of the Skid Row Slasher is Vaughn Orrin Greenwood. He was a 33-year-old guy who had been doing similar stuff in Chicago 10 years prior to that and had been locked up, but not nearly...
Fork Spot's coming to Chicago.
We should ask them if they deliver to prisons. The way he got caught is that when he attacked William Graham,
he tried to go up against Charles Manson.
Killer versus killer. Although we both know Charles Manson didn't kill anybody. He dropped a letter that he addressed to himself at the last scene, and they looked into it, and then they went to his house and they found the cufflinks of one of the victims there. So then he got caught.
It's weird that anytime salt is involved, they're like, well, it's a Satan worshiper.
This is Satan. This is satanic stuff.
This is Satan's season.
I was telling my girlfriend, she's like, well, isn't that an old village thing to keep ghosts away?
To kill transients?
To kill transients, that's how you keep ghosts away. You have to make a sacrifice. No, when you cover something in salt.
I don't know. I have never lived in the old world. Yeah, that's strange.
Odd.
So,
thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. You'll never hear this, but if you did, you could use promo code Meekly and live out your strangest fantasy on Skid Row. Just use promo code Meekly.
This doesn't count as a credit. You can't say you're a guest on the show.
Yeah. Don't put this on your resume, Brian. Okay, so let's talk about, like I said, in tandem with Life Hacks LA, they cover hidden gems, things like that. So we're going to talk about some hidden gems in the city in this episode.
We are.
Some of them you might know about them, but not really. And some of them I had no idea about these.
One of them talked about is one of my really special things in the city that I try to tell everybody to go to, and I'm happy to do research on it.
Skid Row.
Skid Row. The other one, we'll get into my weird thing with my second one.
Okay. Your love affair with...
It turns out it's not the Hollywood Wax Museum like I thought it was. It's a completely different thing, and I like this one much more.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I have no interest in the Hollywood Wax Museum. None. They're creepy. They're bad.
They're altogether ooky.
Yeah, if they were there, I might go, actually. They had TV versions of the Addams Family, I might go. I don't want to
Just drawings.
Drawings. You're from New York, aren't you?
There's drawings of
water.
Drawings of water and coffee. I don't know. I'm gonna go walk out to Houston. So I'll get us started. Why not? Hey, why not? Hey, why not?
Why not?
I'm talking here.
Why not?
So my first one, day after day, alone on a hill. The restaurant on the map refuses to comp my bill.
Oh my god.
Our first gem is a place.
Bad music.
To explain that, my girlfriend, she compared living with me is like living in a bad musical. Which is, calling it a musical is generous. So our first gem is a place that literally looks down on all of us, the Yamashiro restaurant in Hollywood.
It's above Magic Castle, correct?
It is. Yeah. That's the only time I've seen it is when driving towards Magic Castle, which I'm also not allowed
Here's the thing
into.
about, I don't know if you caught this in your research, but it's actually just an illusion. It's not actually on a hill. It's
a
just,
mirror.
It's a
mirror.
It's a mirror.
It's just a mirror reflecting off of the
top of
Haunted Mansion. Way down in Irvine.
Anaheim. No, I'm not talking about the Disney one. There's a Haunted Mansion in Irvine.
It's on the UCI campus. This story here, it all starts with the ancient Japanese dynasty of the Bernheimer brothers.
Oh my God.
Two brothers from Ulm, Germany. Eugene Bernheimer was born 1865, and his brother Adolf was born 1866. The sons
it was okay then.
It was
okay to call someone Adolf back then.
His brother Eichmann. It meant something else back then. They were born with Buddhist swastikas around, so. His brother was born in 1866. They were the sons of a dry goods importing company called Bear Mill Manufacturing Company. They were sons of a corporation. They made cotton products and imported and exported Oriental goods, as they put it. In less racist terms, this meant that for work, they traveled extensively in Asia. And while they were there, they developed a love for Asian art and culture and started to collect things that eventually turned into a massive Asian art collection that was valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. They just started collecting things.
Hell yeah.
Lao Wai. Boy, the Lao Wais they must have heard. I feel you, Adolf. They have all this art, but what to do with it?
What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that?
Greg just swallowed his tongue. He's very sick. They had come to the U.S. in 1888, but it wasn't until 1911 that they came to L.A., priceless art collection in hand, just holding it all.
Is this a carry-on?
Can I bring this life-size dragon made out of jade with me? So in 1912, they bought a 12-acre plot of land from a guy named Hobart J. Whitley.
Yeah, but what's really his name, though?
What's his not con man name? So it was 250 feet above Hollywood Boulevard and an address now known as 1999 North Sycamore Avenue. They wanted to build an almost literal temple to the Asian art and culture they loved that they could house their collection in, but also live in, because why share it with the public? I want to live with my art.
I want, okay, get this. I want to make an art gallery and a museum.
I don't want to live in it.
And I want to live in it, and I want no one else to have access.
Rent is high. Man, we all want a museum. Why choose between a museum and a place to live anymore?
I belong in a museum!
That's what he said to the designer. He was actually on the other side of that movie. So they hired an architect named Franklin Smalls. Still no actual Asian people involved here. And he got them to design for them a mountain palace, or a Yamashiro, as it's called in Japanese.
Oh,
that's what it means.
Okay.
So it was inspired by different designs from all over Asia, China, Japan. This, those places. This is when the actual Asian people got involved in the form of hundreds of nameless workers they brought in from Asia for the job. Cultural appropriation is alive and well.
Just touch everything. We just want to say that it's Asian. Just touch everything.
What was completed in 1914 was really a masterpiece of home design in any part of the world. It had 10 rooms, and the whole thing was made of teak and cedar covered in rafters painted gold, adorned with bronze dragons. So the inside of the house was decorated all over with their artwork and tapestries and silks and like Asian furniture everywhere, kind of like how we're sitting, like where we're sitting.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that they're humble. Yeah. And then it's a modest living environment.
We only have the finest silk. So the landscaping on the place alone cost $2 million, and it was complete with waterfalls, a lake full of black swans, 30,000 varieties of plants and trees, a private aviary, and a monkey house filled with live monkeys that was less of a house and more of a tunnel that led to a cave full of monkeys.
Sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is just screaming monkeys.
Sometimes it's a monkey that stole your flashlight. Surprise! He's got teeth.
He wants to hit your genitals real hard.
And you can see him in the dark. So there was a tiny canal system decorated, just like the one down in Irvine.
The Pirates of the Caribbean of Irvine?
Yeah.
It's a small world in Irvine.
It's a modestly sized mansion. Tiny canal system decorated with toy houseboats and miniature villages. And the whole garden area was terraced with 300 steps leading from street level up to the house. So in case you got tired, there was the summer house near the top of the hill, which was just a rest stop for the puny among those likely enough to visit to rest a little bit before they got to the front door. The most interesting feature is probably, to me, it's the 600-year-old pagoda that was flown in from Japan and is now by default the oldest standing structure in California.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. What's a pagoda?
Kind of like a Laowai. It's a Laowai you can live in.
That's all I want. Gentrify the Laowai.
Each brother lived on one side of the house with a central courtyard joining the two sections.
And then there was a strip of blue tape down the middle.
This is my wing. It was called the DMZ, which is a different part of Asia. Bear in mind, this was built 12 years before the Chinese theater, so this predates the Asian appropriation trend of the city. But it wasn't long before the city began to turn on the brothers and this house. From the get-go, things, it was weird. Like, the descriptions I read were weird. When it was done, the LA Times wrote, "The hosts there are bachelors, and it is rumored that they have made a pact that no woman shall ever enter the place as an invited guest."
Okay.
I have no idea what this means, but they went on to describe this as the sign of a sinister romance.
What? Yeah. Between two brothers?
I don't know. I don't know what they're possibly implying.
Golly. I'm sure they couldn't say homosexual in the newspapers at the time, so they're like,
sinister. Bachelors. Yeah, sinister. Bachelors meant you're gay, and sinister meant you like incest.
And then no girls allowed, pretty on the nose.
Boys only. This all shows you that people were kind of wary of these two brothers living in this Asian mansion on the hill. And then World War I hit. And suddenly, two mysterious, reclusive German Jews living high up above Hollywood, they must be spies. Yeah,
pretending to be Asian?
Yeah, these two closeted Germans up there. Rumors started to fly to the point that people all over town believed that the Bernheimer brothers were smuggling German spies and guns into the country and hiding them in Yamashiro via tunnels leading up to the house, and were also signaling German airplanes from their driveway.
What driveway? You know?
None of them had gone up there. They don't know. So to show people that they weren't spies, both brothers bought $5,000 war bonds in 1918 to show how much they loved America, but nobody was buying it. They didn't believe
spies
them.
Could do that too.
Yeah, the spy who bought bail bonds.
I was buying war bonds, but for the other side. I was buying it for Germany.
$5,000 in American war bonds, $5 million in German war bonds.
Won't be a fair fight.
To try to dispel these rumors, they brought in an FBI agent and a reporter from the Examiner to inspect the house for hidden tunnels and smuggled goods. Mm-hmm. And when the newspaper printed the article that they found nothing, people kind of backed off, but the brothers were still bitter about it. So not long after the war in 1924, they sold the house and the sinister brothers split up. Eugene went to San Francisco and died. San Francisco. That town has a reputation, doesn't it?
There's a certain kind of lifestyle up there.
A certain free living, very appealing lifestyle.
Let's go San Francisco.
They have Fork Spot. No, they don't. They have San Diego. Let me do the ad over again. Eugene went to San Francisco and died in December of that year, but Adolf...
From a broken heart.
He just wanted to love his brother. But Adolf moved to Pacific Palisades, where he decided to try to recreate Yamashiro on the highest bluff along the water, which was a spot the Shumash called Burning Mountain, because there was often smoke seen emanating from it, and it smelled like sulfur and gave off a red glow at night.
So they summoned a dragon.
He finally did it.
Finally, son of a bitch, finally did it.
My collection will be complete. Scientists say now that this weird phenomenon, it's from oil and gas seeping out, but I say it's the volcano that buried Atlantis. But this place looked similar to Yamashiro and was kind of like an Asian Getty villa. It was called Bernheimer Oriental Gardens. Beautiful.
Every word that follows it makes more sense.
It was open to the public, this one, and it had over 2 million people visit until World War II hit. And nobody had enough gas to drive to Pacific Pacific Palisades because all they had were bullets in their car. And also, he was still German, so people didn't trust him again, all over again. And inflation, he can't afford a war bond, an American bail bond. At the same time, the land started slipping into the ocean because of the recently built PCH. And then in 1944, Adolf died. Suspicious. Pretty similar to another Adolf's death here. And 2 months later, a huge landslide destroyed the whole place, so that's no longer there. There's a book on this place called The Mystery of the Green Ghost, which is sort of an Alfred Hitchcock branded Hardy Boys thing. It's weird. I'm going to read it right now.
Yeah.
So back to Yamashiro. The man the brother sold it to was John Tate, who is rumored to have turned it into a brothel during the mid-20s. But that's never been confirmed. But what is confirmed is that on October 11th, 1925, this place was the first meeting place of the 400 Club, which I kept thinking the 700, or what is it, the 700 Club, the religious thing? You don't know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. It used to be on TV before X-Men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, so you remember. You're one of the 700. It's not that. This was an exclusive celebrity-only secret society. It's even more religious. It was an offshoot of the 60 Club, which was about 340 people smaller. Hey, that was started by...
What?
Wait a minute, let me get my abacus. So that was started by Frank Elliott, and they used to meet at the Biltmore. It started because even though movie people in the mid-20s, they were becoming rich in the city, they were still looked down on by the old money, oil, newspaper, the Chandlers.
What, Henry Huntington didn't like to hang out with Hedy Lamarr? Why?
Oh, he did. These new money people, they weren't invited to these old money events, so they decided to build their own community to not feel so left out about it. So membership, it was $500 for the 400 Club. It's you're paying more than $1 a person, in my opinion. Let me get my abacus. The membership included people like Cecil B. DeMille, Rudolph Valentino, Fatty Arbuckle, Samuel Goldwyn, Sam Warner, Pola Negri, Lillian Gish, and 393 of their friends all piled into Yamashiro this night. Greg, you're disrespecting me.
Lillian Gish.
Greg, I challenge you. Lillian Gish is my father. One person present on this opening night of it said, "We heard music coming from the little open music room at the end of the patio, and somebody was dancing the Charleston. Of course it is Priscilla Dean and Ruth Rowland," commented Stella, and sure enough, it was. "I saw them only last night Charlestoning at the 60 Club at the Biltmore. Now the question is, where did these indestructible Charlestoners Charleston in between times?" That's the sort of commentary you get in the mid-20s. This is why the Chandlers didn't like them.
Written by Jasper Zaffron.
By the next year, in 1926, the 400 Club had kind of petered out, and Yamashiro was just used basically as a venue for whoever wanted to hold an event there. In the 30s, you could tour the gardens for a quarter, but in the 40s, it became a target of racist paranoia again, even with nobody living there, because when World War II hit, people started spreading rumors that it was actually a signal tower for the Japanese. This looks Japanese.
Yeah.
It must be a spy. This building is a spy.
I bet there's Polish people up there.
That building's trying to steal my job. So during World War II, it got heavily vandalized, so the owner decided to hide the Asian features of it to calm people down. They started putting up wood around all of the ornate trimmings, and they painted it black, and other Rolling Stone lyrics.
That's not a dragon, it's an American snake.
It's the snake that the eagle's catching, not the Mexican eagle, the American eagle. After this, it briefly turned into a military boys' school. What can get more American than that? But after the war in 1948, it was bought by a man named Thomas O. Glover, who was going to tear the whole thing down and put up apartments. But when he was about to do it, he discovered that behind all this wood and black paint, there were these beautiful old Asian designs. So he decided instead to return it to its original glory and expand it, converted it into 15 apartments, including one in the old monkey cave.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Still monkeys, though.
Private tunnel.
Couldn't get them out.
They are not going. Renters' rights. So lots of celebrities lived there, including Pernell Roberts, who was on Bonanza, and apparently Richard Pryor lived there for a little bit.
Did he set it on fire?
That's why I had to move. Do this in your own home. Glover also bought the land around it that would later become the Magic Castle and the Hollywood Hills Hotel. You know, that mirror?
Yeah.
Eventually, Glover built a cocktail lounge in the back room of the main house and started the Hollywood Hills Club in it that cost $1 to join and to drink there. This got more and more popular until eventually the whole east side of the building was a bar/club. But then on New Year's Eve, 1963, Glover's son started serving hors d'oeuvres there, and that's when they decided officially to become a restaurant, and Yamashiro, as we know it, but not really because it's a hidden gem, was born. Started out with just 4 tables. Soon it was the whole main building, capable of holding up to 512 diners, and it's pretty much stayed the same that way ever since.
Yeah.
That's 112 more than the 400 Club. Thank you, Abacus. It's been in a lot of movies, Memoirs of a Geisha.
Oh,
of
it was?
course.
Okay.
And in August 2012, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. But in
Yay.
2014, it went up for sale and was under threat of being turned into a private club or a fashion runway, I read. They would just do fashion shows up there, or a tech think tank, which I don't know what that means. Sounds sinister.
I bet the Axis is up there. They're all up there and they're planning stuff.
Oh, maybe Russians like fashion. Maybe instead, it was sold to a Chinese hotel company called JE Group in March 2016 for $40 million. Who proceeded? They then raised the rent of the restaurant 3 times to $100,000 a month, which forced the restaurant to close down. And then they opened up their new restaurant in its place, still called Yamashiro. They do Asian fusion. It's run by the same team that runs the Chinese theater, so there's a lot of premiere after parties there held up there. But you can also host your wedding or special event up there for a nominal fortune. They do a
modest fortune.
A pauper's fortune. They do a night market up there on Thursdays during the summer, so you can go visit without having to spend a nominal inheritance just to eat there. There's some reported hauntings up there, like crying coming from one of the rooms at night, and some have seen a guy in a cowboy hat walking around after hours. The Seven Samurai. Seven Samurai turning into the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
That's them.
I want to see ghost monkeys.
Go to the old zoo. I want to see ghost monkeys. Bad musical.
You're a baboon.
Get out of here. You're a specter of a baboon.
You're a specter of an orangutan. Get out of here.
So they think this guy in the cowboy hat could be Glover, the guy who used to own it, or maybe it was this old movie pioneer named Fayette Thomas Moore who shot himself in his car in front of the restaurant in 1955.
He couldn't afford anything.
Whoever this may be, just remember that some of the fish in the koi pond are almost 60 years old.
I wish I didn't burp when you said that.
Yeah.
I wanted to laugh.
Instead, you burp in my face.
On the day of my daughter's wedding.
At Yamashiro.
Yamashiro, which is a lovely place.
So yeah, that's Yamashiro. I want to go to that night market at least to just kind of walk around.
We should do that.
Check in next month if that's the thing we do.
How about you do it and take pictures? I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite places in Griffith Park. The title.
You do love this place.
I do love this place. Have I taken you there?
No, I've still never been there.
You've never been?
I've seen it from
Travel
the freeway.
Town?
Oh, you spoiled it.
I did spoil it just to scold you. How dare you have a podcast on LA and never gone Travel Town?
Got to make a move to a town that's right for me. Won't you take me to Travel Town? Good musical.
This one is called Where We're Going, We Don't Need to Go Anywhere. The story of little old Travel Town in Griffith Park has to do with 2 men, both of whom worked for the city.
Were they sinister men?
They were 2 brothers, and they kissed. And then the whole world
Kissing
didn't want them to kiss again. And they're like, but we want to.
Started a world war because of it. The kiss heard around the world.
Those 2 brothers, Japan and Germany. 2 guys. William Fredrickson, who was the superintendent of recreation, and Charlie Atkins, who was an employee of the Recreation and Parks Department. It's these
Charlie Atkins sound familiar.
I thought that he was a country singer of old time country.
I think he does. I might be thinking of the Atkins diet.
I might be thinking of Charlie Patton and the Atkins diet. Yeah. It all happens at this moment, at the end of the 40s and the beginning of the 50s. Because of wartime industries and boosts in the national economy, production of automobiles is on the rise, which is perfect because now not only do people want personal vehicles, they can also afford it. With the rise of automobile comes the decline in train transportation. And that was an era filled with excitement and train crashes and train robberies and boxcar hobos singing old-timey songs like Charlie Atkins. Charlie Atkins was...
Don't eat carbs.
Bad musical. But Charlie Atkins was not going to let this era of American transportation go quietly. Atkins was born in...
Trains aren't known for that.
He was... This is the sound he's going to make to not let it go quietly. Choo-choo. Crash, crash.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Chugga, chugga.
Preserve this.
Earn this. Atkins was born in 1889 in Omaha, Nebraska. Before moving to Los Angeles, he was an executive for the Standard Oil Company. He made the move to Southern California in the 30s and later took a job with the city of Los Angeles. Charlie was deeply saddened by what he correctly felt was the end of the railroad era of American life. Now, his spark for the idea was creating a railroad petting zoo for kids to come and see what would eventually become relics. So basically, come and play with all the trains.
No feeding.
Just keep
throwing coal into
it. Eat it! Why won't it wake up?
Why is that train humping the other one? It's how boxcars are made.
Yeah. I wish I knew more train phrases.
Caboose.
We did go there.
I've never been there.
We've been there.
I have not been there.
We've been there together.
No. Mm-hmm. No. When have we been there? I know that you once went there and took a bunch of pictures.
And you weren't with me?
I was not with you.
I think it was you.
Must have been Mark Maron, the only other podcaster in town.
Yeah, no, it was Lore. I took Lore out.
I went there with stuff you should know. Here's some stuff you should know. I went there with hardcore history. You know, there's probably 400,000 podcasts, and whenever it's time for us to make a reference to another one, we name five of them.
I listen to probably 15 different podcasts, and I'm still always like, what's Lore doing? Are you my favorite murder?
4 of the 5 I reference, I don't even listen to.
Yeah, I know. I can literally put 2 words together, and it's probably someone's podcast. You know, Muffin Paycheck, it's probably a podcast.
How do you get on?
It's a dying medium.
Someday there's going to be a travel town for podcasts.
Charlie was trying to rally some troops. He wanted to find a place in the city to exhibit and hold these retired trains. He started rallying the troops, and he found a lot of support for his idea among railroad enthusiasts. They also got a lot of support from the Parks Department for Griffith Park, for the actual park, the Parks Department.
Griffith Park Department.
Park. I believe this is where William Frederickson comes in. It's weird because some sources give the credit to the idea to Atkins and others give it to Frederickson, but rarely are the two mentioned in the same space, and if they are, they always give credit to one and not both. So I'm going to try to give credit to both. I mostly give credit to Atkins because when I went to Travel Town last time, I bought a postcard with Charlie Atkins, and one of our Patreon people got. So I'm always like, yeah, Charlie Atkins, he made everything, but it's probably 2 people. Frederickson was the superintendent of the recreation for the city, and it was said that it was his original idea he had in 1947 that led to the creation of Travel Town. So I think a lot of people gave him credit for the germ of the idea. Frederickson had a similar idea to Atkins. Thousands of curious youngsters had never been able to access these beautiful machines. His idea originally had to do with planes. He thought a lot of kids were curious and wanted to grow up to be pilots, but they had never been into a cockpit. They had never been on an airplane as just like admirers. Like if you're getting on a plane, you're just like a passenger.
It's just hijackers.
And I have a box cutter. His main concern was just...
So we went from planes to trains.
And then, there was no logical third one. There just wasn't.
He also made another museum, the Peterson, originally called the Atkins Museum.
The way Atkins had thought of making a railroad petting zoo, Frederickson wanted to create a museum where you were allowed to put your hands on these precious pieces of history. Pick up that dinosaur, climb into that sarcophagus, do whatever you want. But they both had similar ideas.
See what it's like to be a mummy.
They wanted the next generation to still be able to look and touch at these big machines. That's what these 2 men wanted. Frederickson went about obtaining a surplus. Well, he tried to get surplus airplanes from World War II since it was over, but that plan, he worked with another guy with the Parks Department, General George. God, this guy's last name is hard to say. Hajalte. He was a general manager of the city recreation and parks department.
Croatian.
These 2 guys, no comment. I see that you...
I suspect he's a spy. You from Serbia or Croatia? Weird specific racism against countries nobody has a problem with. Except those countries. Except those 2 countries hate each other.
Frederickson and Hajalte, they tried to get planes to make a plane museum. That plan fell through, but he kept the spark of idea, a place where young kids could climb aboard old vehicles. And those 2 men went on to create the very first playground in an auto junkyard. Kidding, but come on, look at Travel Town. How is it not that? Atkins' plan finally reaches Frederickson and Hajalte, and they start looking into acquiring some old trains. At some point, I'm not quite sure when, but they acquired the land for the Travel Town. The spot would be on the San Fernando Valley side of Griffith Park, almost adjacent to the Hollywood Forest Lawn. Travel Town would be given 9 acres to display trains and railroad ephemera to the public. The first 2 locomotives that Travel Town acquired were small. They had once worked at a quarry at Catalina carrying stones used in building the breakaway ports at the Port of LA. These were property of the LA Harbor Department, and they were going to get scrapped until they got saved by this team of train nerds who all worked for Rex and Park. As I'm learning, it's just one department's like, I like trains too, let's buy all the trains. So it's now 1952, and now they have another fella named Orrin Wennersten, not Wienerstein, Wennersten. He was the supervisor of maintenance.
Tell it to his high school bullies.
Wennersten was a supervisor of maintenance, again, at the Rex and Park Department. Wennersten got his employee to write a letter to DJ Russell, not a DJ like a musician, his name is D.J.
He's my favorite droid. He may not be a DJ, but he is a Star Wars droid.
But he is a malfunctioning Star Wars droid that's in one scene and has his own action figure and trading card. So they write a letter to DJ Russell. He's the president of a Southern Pacific company to inquire about acquiring an obsolete locomotive to display, and this would be a donation to the train nerds. The employee that Winterston got to write the letter was Charlie Atkins. So it's just a big circle of nerds being like, what's that old train doing? DJ Russell was also a train nerd and enthusiastically approved of this idea, so he donated the soon-to-be retired engine 3025 to the men at the Rex and Parks Department. So that's great of Southern Pacific, but now the question, how do we get this old heavy train from Glendale to its spot in Travel Town, which is almost Glendale? They luckily got help from the Biala Truck Company to move the damn thing for free, and October 10th, the engine 3025 landed in Griffith Park thanks to what I can only imagine are train nerds of the Biala Truck Company.
They work for the Parks Department. department also.
They got hired that day.
Seasonal workers.
The little birdie started talking, and soon news was spreading about the retired trains at the travel town that you could board. Almost immediately, the train petting zoo was receiving new vehicles and other exhibits in rapid, one after the other. By the 1st of December, Travel Town had on exhibit a 44-passenger streetcar given by the LA Transit Lines. They had an historic 76-year-old dray represented by Paul J. Smith, who was the president of the Republic.
Was there a Snoop?
What was I saying?
Do you want me to sing?
Do you mind singing and rapping for me?
Yeah, I do.
They had a 50-year-old kerosene tank wagon donated by the Standard Oil Company of California. There's a colorful old circus wagon given by the Beverly Amusement Company. Caboose number 2117, which was a veteran home on wheels for a nomadic trainman given by the Union Pacific Railroad Company. And a one-horse shay, which was a gift from Knott's Berry Farm.
Isn't that a line from a Christmas song? A one-horse shay? Or four-horse sleigh? What is it? One horse.
Open
on
sleigh.
a one-horse sleigh.
Open sleigh.
Oh, jingle bells. Anyway, it is a Christmas song.
Is Jingle Bells a Christmas song? Is that what we're arguing right now? So on top of all the trains that were getting donated, all different types of trains, first of all, like you had interurban ones, you had like transcontinental trains, you had sleeper trains. On top of all that, Pacific Electric donated its old Sierra Vista waiting station, like the awning that goes over all the trains. They donated that. So that's from PE.
I've seen that from the freeway, I think.
You can see that. That's pretty big. That's pretty noticeable.
That's definitely free to see. If you just don't look at traffic and look to your right when you're on the 134.
Just hard stop.
Yeah.
And
just stop. People will understand.
Yeah, no, just turn your hazards on. That's okay.
Life hack. Stop in the middle of the freeway. You can see whatever attraction you want for free.
With that impressive slate of exhibits cleaned and polished for the occasion, Travel Town was officially dedicated on Sunday, December 14th of 1952. And after that, they just kept acquiring trains and growing exhibits. Among the regular locomotives and train cars, which eventually included Larry trains and red cars, they also had an ancient petroleum field fire truck, which was donated by the Shell Oil Company. And at one point, they
Who
had
also work for the Parks Department.
3 planes on site, which included an obsolescent Japanese Zero fighter, Zero in quotations,
I
fighter.
don't trust it.
Is it active?
Who
Is anyone
signaled
inside?
it from their driveway?
Is it spying on other planes?
Yeah,
It's going to
spying
telltale.
on the trains.
The fighter plane was captured on the South Pacific Island during World War II. All these 3 planes were later donated to the Air Museum. Atkins unfortunately died in 1959, but he dies seeing this passion of his and his little idea turn into a popular amusement.
Right.
Not that popular because it's a hidden gem. You know what's weird is I can't seem to find much on Walt Disney or Ward Kimball's ideas on Travel Town, and you think they would because
They had
train
their own
nerds.
trains in their backyard.
Yeah,
They
that
were
was the
crazy.
genesis of Disneyland.
Yeah.
They also almost
And it's
acquired-
across the street from
It's
Disneyland.
literally across the street from Disneyland. It's across a freeway.
Yeah, I call the freeway a street because
It's
I
just-
stop on it and sleep there all the time.
Because I pull over and get out and just like walk around. Yeah, they were trainers. I don't know what they thought of Travel Town.
That's
Anything
weird.
of it.
Like the timing, the
Yeah.
year, everything is matched up perfectly with
Because
them.
me and Ada went up to a train museum in Nevada, I think in Carson City, and they have one of Ward Kimball. They Whistling Billy is Ward Kimball's train. I'm like, but what did he think about Travel Town? I am trying to make it a point to stop at every train museum in every city now because I love them so much.
It's your whistle stop tour of
It-
train museums.
Yeah. In 1965, Travel Town's exhibits were regrouped and the park was rededicated. And there's just constant restoration projects going on with all the trains there. In 1966, a new director stepped into Travel Town. His name was Fred Hertwig, and he was a jovial,
Sounds Slovenian.
something not right about that name, huh?
Sounds like he might be from the former Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia. Sounds like he's someone from real cold, but not American cold. He was a real jovial, likable guy, and he retired in 1983 at the age of 69 and he never missed a day of work. He first became involved in the city of Beverly Hills with a traveling circus, which I'm very curious about. He was a director of a program for 15 summers beginning in 1952 where they would travel to 3 different city playgrounds a week and cast children in 14 different circus acts.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I have no idea I'm so curious about the Beverly Hills Traveling Circus.
No insurance necessary.
Well-
If that's what the tour was called.
Listen, your son wants to be in the circus. He has to bite the head off this chicken live, okay? Or he
And
can
then
go
this,
home.
this lion has to bite the head off of him. 'Cause the
It's a
lion wants to go home.
Circle of life.
Man bites chicken. Lion bites man.
Nobody
Woman
bites
inherits the earth. Yeah.
He then went on, after doing the circus, he went on to work for the City of LA's Rec and Parks, where he ended up at Travel Town. He carried on the legacy of neatness and train nerdery after the passing of Atkins. At Travel Town, among the many immobile trains and cars, there's a small train that circles the park, and for a couple bucks, you can ride this and wave to all the sucker pedestrians and stuff, which is really neat.
That I think I've been on because that I think is the ghost train.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I rode on. So I
Okay.
guess I kind of have been there, but I didn't see the.
You've been to Spooky there.
There's a lot of witches there and
I know.
talking jack-o'-lanterns, right?
Oh yeah, you know it pretty well. My favorite things there's a LA Railway interurban trolley. It's there. It's really beat up, but it's got that simple like trolley look that I like. Donated in 1962. There's also a Pullman sleeping car called the Rose Bowl. It's like long and black. It's under that waiting area. It was built in 1937. They also have a Southern Pacific stock car made of wood, and it looks like where they killed Laura Palmer. I always make that joke when I go there and nobody cares. Now, Travel Town. Admission is absolutely free, but donations are graciously appreciated. It's opened, I believe, every day, but check the hours before you go, because some days it closes at 4, sometimes it closes at 5. It's such a wonderful thing to check out. It's great to let kids just kind of run around and do their thing. You can have birthday parties inside one of the trains there. Best of all, but sadly, it's never that packed. It's never empty, but it's also just... It's
good and bad.
Good and bad. It's such a wonderful little hidden gem of LA, but it's a very wonderful, wholesome, not seedy place. I was looking up kind of surface level checks. I'm like, so no murders, no vandal, no skulls found, no lion, no.
Did these trains ever hit anyone?
Please check out Travel Town. It's at 5200 Hollingsworth Drive in Griffith Park, at the very edge of Griffith Park.
Is there a gift shop?
Yeah, there's a great gift shop.
Yeah, I imagine there's a good gift shop
There's
there.
a good gift shop. I always want to buy train whistles, and you know what they have?
Conductor's hats. Children's conductor's hats.
And it's pinstriped. They have a mug that I really want that I never get, and it's a mug of hobo codes. I love it.
Like in Mad Men.
There's
There's an angry pie that lives here.
There's a cow that looked at me cross.
So it's owned by the Parks Department?
Yeah, it's owned by the city of LA, by
That's
the
good.
Parks Department.
That's weird, because the zoo also, it seems like everything,
that area.
why would there be a private company in Griffith, in the public park?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Let's go on to mine. I have two small ones here, and these were both actually suggested by Lifehacks LA.
Oh yeah, okay. Are they small? The stories are short, or they're
stories are short. They're also
hidden gems that are just gems.
They're actual gems.
They're actual gems.
I hid 2 Bombay sapphires somewhere in this city. The winner gets the keys to Yamashiro. But watch out for the racist looks. These 2 are suggested by him from Lifehacks LA. So the first one I'm going to talk about, you can beg for forgiveness with as many Hail Marys as you want, but there's only one St. Vincent, and that's St. Vincent's Court.
Jesus Christ.
You knew about this one. I had no idea what this was.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called.
You were aware of this.
I was aware of this.
Yeah.
We used to walk by it because it's 7th Street.
I never saw this. I had never heard of this before. This hidden little alley, here we go, located between Broadway and Hill. You have to enter on the north side of 7th Street. So that's how you get in there. It's a dead-end street. Originally, it was called St. Vincent Place. Mm-hmm. This was the road that led up to the old St. Vincent College, which was the first college in Southern California.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's a dead-end road because that end of the road used to be the first college in Southern California. Okay. It took up most of that block, the college, when it opened in 1868 until it moved in 1887 and went on to become Loyola Marymount. Part of that building became a military compound until 1907 when it became Bullock's department store.
Oh, really?
That's where it was. And St. Vincent Place was used for shipping and receiving deliveries and became a meeting spot for vendors who would be delivering there. So Bullock's, it became like a hangout place for the people delivering things to the department store. So the Bullock's...
People didn't want to go back to work and were lounging around.
Yeah, the depression's going to hit. Why do this?
Yeah, why do this? I've been loading a truck for like a year now, and sometimes I want to scratch my bottom. Go ahead.
So Bullock's decided to rent out space on this street for a few shops and restaurants on the street to open up and cater to these vendors, and it slowly bloomed into this hidden secret area to go hang out for the vendors and people in the know downtown. So since most of the vendors and sellers here were Italian, it took on a very al fresco, open-air Italian plaza feel to it, with people were eating outside, they were hanging out, playing games, smoking, but by the early 50s, the street was looking a little run down, but it was so well regarded of a meeting place at this point that it was made a California landmark and was given a full...
Really?
Yeah, it's a California landmark. It was given a full makeover in 1957. So in this makeover, they fully embraced the Italian ambiance. They decorated it to basically look like the European street set on the Universal Studios lot.
Yeah.
Like it's an exaggeration of what Europe looks like on purpose. It had a cobblestone-like road. It had fake, brightly colored storefronts put on the walls, and it was renamed the more elegant St. Vincent Court.
It's very elegant.
It thrived as the outdoor hangout that it always was, but over the years, as the demographic changed in the 80s and Bullock's closed and part of the building turned into the St. Vincent's Jewelry Center, the restaurant turned more and more Middle Eastern and then predominantly Armenian, which it now is today. So it wasn't Italian anymore.
That's what happened to Italy too, right?
Yeah, it's called Armenia.
It's called Armenia now.
It's a satellite country of Armenia. A guy named Kasin Chelik opened up a restaurant there around this time and got even more facades and decorations put up. I bring him up because he had previously owned the Orange Julius at 7th Street, which if you recall that episode might have been the first location to be called Orange Julius. So he ran that for a while. But the outdoor culture stayed constant throughout and got even better. Eventually, they had a full shoe shine set up on the sidewalk. The tables for the restaurants literally filled the whole street. Like it was a block party every single day and the street was closed off. Like people were just playing cards and eating in the middle of the street.
Hey, Giuseppe, quit playing stickball.
Giuseppe, remember what it was like in Armenia? Problem was the street wasn't closed off.
Yeah.
It was still an open street.
So it's an active street.
Starting in the early 2010s when the Los Angeles Theater was coming back. Thank you, Councilman Jose Huizar.
The untouchable.
The infallible Jose Huizar. So the LA Theater was coming back alive. So they ran into trouble because the only way to get to their loading area was to go down St. Vincent Court. But trucks couldn't get through because there were tables everywhere in the street. And when they were able to get through, the restaurant owners started demanding them to pay to park there for taking up their space.
Yeah.
So to avoid this, the crews trying to use the theater had to instead rent a lot across the street and load and unload and then cross the street, which was way more expensive. So people stopped renting out the Los Angeles Theater, which the owner says cost them millions of dollars because of these restaurants. The owners of the theater complained to the city and the tables in the street, it was illegal, but the city was just kind of looking the other way the whole time. The theater owner was willing to help pay to expand the sidewalk so that the restaurants could still have outdoor dining, which they said if we didn't have outdoor dining, it would kill us. That would be the end of us. But the talks failed when it came to the topic of having reserved spots on the street for the truck. So as it stands, the theater has won. The theater's won and is making a comeback. Meanwhile, in the back alley behind it is this other old gem of the city. It's slowly dying because of...
Yeah, it's one restored thing sucking the energy
exactly.
of another restored thing.
It's all this downtown beautification. St. Vincent Court is being forgotten, which is a shame, but this little dead-end alley, it's a perfect petri dish of what's going on downtown right now. When one thing is saved, literally on the flip side of that, another thing is dying because this one thing is saved. So I would say go there sooner rather than later. But it's a really cool looking little place. I'd like to go there and get some classic Armenian food, your spaghetti, your lasagna. So that's one tiny little one. Now here comes another one.
Okay.
Get ready. Venice as Ven does. And this next one is a story of a Venice couple that never stopped doing it.
What's going to happen right now?
That's right. It's the Venice Mosaic Tile House.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what this is?
Not really.
Good. Finally, I've stumped you. The infallible Jose Huizar and Greg. I've stumped him. So unlike the stories of xenophobia and gentrification I've already covered, this one is a love story. This is a nice one.
Okay.
So in this corner is a woman named Sherry Pan. It's my Italian accent coming out. She was born in San Francisco but raised in Boyle Heights. She went to UCLA in 1959 to study printmaking and then went on to get a master's in fine art from Cal State LA. And in the other corner, a man named Gonzalo Duran, born in Mexico but raised also in Boyle Heights, the son of a man famous locally for making flamenco and folklorico shoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Imagine your dad making these shoes for you.
I would love it so much.
Then I could dance.
The reason I don't dance now is because my dad doesn't make shoes.
I broke my only folklorico shoes.
You can make roller skates pretty good, but you can't dance on roller skates.
I can glide.
And I do, like an angel.
The Skid Row glider. Gonzalo, he went to the Otis Art Institute and then to the Chouinard Art School. They've both been artists since the 60s and have had success in their own right. Gonzalo has been called the Mexican Marc Chagall, but these two love artists didn't know each other until one day in 1992. Sherry was buying... Cherry babe, Cherry Pan. You live in a bad musical. Sherry was buying paint at Nova Color in Culver City.
I know Nova Color.
You know Nova Color.
Yeah.
That happened to be where Gonzalo worked. And one day she came in and she asked, I need to buy something permanent and bright that doesn't fade. And he replied, I'm your man.
No, buy me. I'm a gigolo.
Pay for my services. So she started coming into the store more and more to buy things, but mostly just to see him until one day, as she put it, we just started kissing. Will they, won't they? I say gross. Now they were a couple, and one day they were...
What? But sorry.
Now they were a couple, and one day they were biking through San Gabriel Valley in their bicycle built for two and passed the church that said it did marriages once a week, so they went in and got married. A classic love story.
Classic. Impulsive people.
Artists.
I mean, like...
How romantic.
They're just swallowed up by the sense of doom, and they have to do everything immediately because who knows if I'll die today.
In 1944, they bought a house at 1116 Palms Boulevard in Venice. That was a little rundown place from the 40s. So they started by building an art studio out back in 1996. fix. As Sherry put it, it was a very ugly house, so we had to do something. So here it begins. They both loved color, and Sherry loved making tiles, and Gonzalo was obsessed with the tile work he had known as a kid in Mexico, so he decided that Sherry would make a bunch of colorful tiles, then he'd smash them all and say, look what I can do.
Let me do it.
And put them all over their bathroom, turning it into basically, if you melted down anything made by Gaudi and the Watts Towers and then reformed it into a bathroom, that's what it looked like.
Okay.
Just this crazy, colorful, textured tile thing. Tiles, shards of things everywhere, and it looked really good, and they both loved it. So then Sherry said, make me a Mexican kitchen.
Is that a dish?
It's actually, when two people are in love, like they are, they do the Mexican kitchen. So then they did the same thing to the kitchen that they did to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Then she said, make me a porch kids will love. So they did the same thing on the porch, and then they filled the rest of the front yard with ceramic sculptures of a fortune cookie and an elephant and an iguana and a bathtub and something called a giraffe-aroo. They put in a Beanie Baby wall, and then they covered the walls and floors in colorful tiles, and then they filled more of the house with tiles until the whole house became this crazy, colorful ceramic mosaic work of art that also they happen to live inside of it.
Wow.
It's their Yamashiro. The LA Times took a tour and described it as an almost indescribable cacophony.
Here's how I describe it. It's indescribable.
It's indescribable. If there's one word for this place, it's indescribable. You're indescribable. What kind of musical is that?
You want me to grade it in front of you? In front of all our fans?
Are the reviews in yet? So they were working on the house 8 to 12 hours each weekend, and the whole neighborhood got on board with it. People would bring over their broken dishes and any other interesting looking junk that they had. Kids would bring their broken toys, and the two lovers, they ride around on their bicycle built for two, going to yard sales, looking for more things to put in this house. People were so curious as to what they were doing that they started giving tours that you can take on Saturdays between 1 and 4 for $20. The house isn't completely finished, and they say they still need a few years to finish it, but Gonzalo doesn't really know what that will look like when it's finished. He says, there's an idea in my head, but I don't know how it's going to turn out until I do it.
Yeah.
He says that when he is done, he wants to move and start all over again. But he also hopes to turn this place into a historic landmark, which maybe that sounds kind of brash, but keep in mind that this is exactly how the Watts Tower started.
Yeah.
It was just some guy who wanted to make art in his yard, and now it's one of the most cherished landmarks in the whole city. And you can actually go to this place on the weekend. You could go this weekend and meet the people who are responsible for it. They're also both just regular people, that's my favorite part. Up until 2013, when he retired, you could have gone to Nova Color and met Gonzalo.
That's great.
And you could have kissed him if you wanted. Are you the unfadable color I'm looking for?
Actually, what you want is blue.
No. I'm not
No.
attracted to you. I'm not into that. Look what I can do.
Look what I can do.
And then he kisses his wife. Yeah.
Let me do it.
And then you kiss his wife. They're also deeply in love. They're both in their 70s. Like every picture, they're just crazy about each other. Sherry says, we salsa in the house, we kiss all day long, and if it weren't toxic, I'd paint on him. So look out for a murder in the near future. As she puts it, this house is a monument to love in the midst of really chaotic times. Wow. So it's nice. It's a really nice story. And it look at pictures. It's really cool looking. It's a tiny little house, but like you'll know it when you see it.
And how colors?
How? I'm colorblind. How? I'm
All the
colorblind.
other
I'm texture blind. How?
All the other houses are in black and white. Lights, camera, Russia. I'm going to be talking about the Hollywood Museum and the beautiful Art Deco Max Factor building. But to start, let's go back to Russia, Comrade Zafran. The man who came to be known as Max Factor was born. Do you know what Max Factor's name is? His real
It's
born
not
name?
Max Factor. It's Maximum Faximum.
It's Maximilian Faktorovich.
You're kidding me.
Nope. Which sounds like a lie told on the spot.
That's ridiculous. He went to cool nickname Ellis Island when he came into this country. You're Max Factor.
He was born in a super long time ago year of 1872 in Poland. Max was one of 8 children. 1872, which means all his childhood memories were of working different jobs and probably watching animals be killed. One of his better jobs at a young age was working in a theater where he sold sweets. This is where little Max first got a look into the big world of entertainment and art. Later, he landed a job at the cosmetics salon. In most cases, that's where somebody's story ends, but not Max Factor's case. After that, at the age of 14, Max moved to Moscow to work as a makeup assistant at the famous Bolshoi Theater.
I know that theater.
Do
I'm
you?
very cultured.
You're a cultured young man.
I studied at the Bolshoi. My original name is Danielika Zafanalika.
My name is Daniel Zach
Galifianakis.
Must be a spy. The theater was opened on October 20th, 1856 to coordinate with the coronation day of Tsar Alexander II.
Oh, I knew him.
So that's great, and it's not only making his life important, it's also also putting him on a path to make a mark in American history. But first, mandatory Russian military service. I don't know much about Russian history at the end of the 19th century, but Max didn't lose his limbs or anything, so it must have been like, all right. He wrapped that up in 1895, and upon his return, at some point, he becomes an apprentice in a wig factory. He meets a woman.
As all veterans do.
As all veterans do, they go on to make fake hair.
The wig industry was so accepting of Russian veterans in the early 1900s.
Things changed, but in that moment in time, it was a perfect to be a Russian veteran who wants to make fake hair.
Nobody had it easier than Russian veterans from the late 1800s.
Who wanted to make fake hair for a living. He meets a woman named Esther Rosa, nicknamed Lizzie, and the two have 3 children together.
Her American name was Joe Cool.
They had 3 children, Frida, Cecilia, and Davis. Eventually, Max Factor opened up his own store where he sold cosmetics. He sold powders and creams and perfumes and wigs that he made himself, custom wigs. Those are going to be a big deal later. His talents and ability to see how to accentuate the physical advantages of each client made him quite famous, and he quickly rose above the ranks of makeup artists. He served a theater troupe that would play in front of the Tsar and somehow helped spread his name to the upper crust of the Russian Empire. And then it's 1904, and it's that classic story. Anti-Semitism starts making a lot of sense to one group of people, and the other group of people, we'll call them, I don't know, Jewish. They start saying, we gotta get the fire truck out of here because people, this is not looking good.
We gotta get the Max Factor out of here.
We gotta get the maximum factor is out of here. So Max Factor took his wife and his 2 kids and about $40,000 and left for America.
We will make wigs in America. We will make makeup in America.
There are no wigs in America.
Yet.
There's no hair in America.
Yet.
They came to America where there would never be any anti-Semitism. They landed in St.
Just ask the Bernheimer brothers.
They landed in St. Louis, and this was, unlike most people, intentional. Not only
it wasn't just a layover that went wrong.
Not only did he have well-wishers in St. Louis who could help him establish himself, there was also the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. Max even set up a booth at it and sold cosmetics. After that point, Max opens up a barber shop. Eventually, everything seems to be going good. Him and Lizzie have 2 more children, Francis and Louis.
They actually moved to St. Louis.
They moved to St. Louis. Sadly, Lizzie dies suddenly from an aneurysm. Huh. He does what any man would do. He gets married again and has another child, and then that marriage doesn't work, and he meets another lady. The 2 of them and 5 children grab all of their stuff, and they head out west to sunny Southern California. The year is 1908. We barely have sustainable water, but yeah, sure, come over. Once in Los Angeles, Max Factor gets right to work. He opens up his first shop at the edge of downtown near Central and Pico. This was called, when you open up a store, it's got to have like a little bit of mystery to it and a little bit of like sex appeal. This was called the Antiseptic Hair Store.
Ew.
Based on brochures and ads, he seemed to specialize in making wigs and toupees. Do you know what happens in 1908?
Hindenburg?
Hindenburg happens. 1908 is also the year that Thomas Edison, sets up the Motion Picture Patents Company in New Jersey. Finally, we can make motion pictures so long as we pay Edison to use his patented technology, or we can move west where it'll take longer for him to find out that we've been using it.
Where it takes twice as long for the cease and desist letters to arrive.
Also, the weather was superb and different parts of the city offer different terrain. West is the best, east is the least. We all know it.
Hey, it rhymes. You can't argue with it.
The gloves don't fit. You must have quit. You can't argue with that. What I'm saying is Max Factor, the revolutionary Hollywood makeup artist, got to Los Angeles at just the right time. He preceded the Hollywood machine by a little bit. So he had his foot in the door.
He had his wig in the door.
He has his foot in the door because he was there before the door was built. So the studios in LA started filming things in the early 19-teens. And I don't know if you've seen silent films before. The makeup's kind of odd because of the cameras at the time, and the makeup had to be caked on. People had like raccoon eyes and pronounced lips. All this stuff used to create expression because it was so hard, and it was silent film, so you had to like mostly use expressions, but the makeup was like limiting.
Just talk. Why didn't they just talk?
I could read lips.
Everyone couldn't read lips back then.
It was said that they used ham brine on the face of actors as a tinting powder, a fine glaze for all those hams. Booyah, booyah, booyah. Baba booey, baba booey.
Baba booyah.
Wigs in Hollywood at the time were also very primitive. They were usually very coarse, and they looked weird on people. Apparently, they were made of cigar shavings or some crap. But you know who was really great at making
tobacco?
Tobacco shaving, sorry.
You could also smoke the wigs.
But you know who was really great at making wigs was that little Russian man who makes wigs and has a long, weird name that, when shortened, sounds like a sports drink mixed with cologne. Yeah, Max Factor makes wigs. So around 1930, the studio started heading to a shop in downtown, and he'd make custom wigs. But the issue there is that the prices for custom wigs were too high because custom wigs. So many studios would rent the wigs for their shoot. The first industry man to do business with Max Factor was Cecil B. DeMille. I have
The
to
guy
say it
from
slow.
the 400 Club?
Yeah, I have to say his name really slow because I've been saying Cecil Bill DeMille and I can't do that anymore.
Cecil Build-A-Bear.
Cecil, you beat me to it because I am sick and I am just so slow.
Fastest wit in this empty hallway.
Son
Son of a B. DeMille.
This is for the movie called The Squaw Man, which I hated having to say. Sorry. So he rented to DeMille.
Is that offensive?
Yeah.
Is it?
Squaw?
I don't know what that means.
It's a Native American.
Oh, okay.
I think it's offensive. I don't like saying it, so it must be offensive.
I can't pronounce it. It must be offensive.
So he rented to DeMille, and I believe even got some work as an extra in either that pick or another, but it wasn't long lasting. And I think that was part of his deal. It's like, well, if you're gonna rent, then I want to be there with the hair. And then he had to he pretended to fall off a horse. I was watching a thing, and it didn't make a lot of sense. Studios kept churning out movies, and by 1915, Hollywood established itself as a mecca for filmmaking. And by the 20s, the motion pictures had established themselves as an art and entertainment, and made the viewing of films a necessity of American life. Los Angeles was the film capital of the world, and little Max Factor had, by chance, his foot in the door, which I said already.
His wig in the door.
Around this time, he comes up with
Ouch.
his own brand line. He calls it Supreme, not the one you're thinking of. Though he doesn't skateboard.
Yeah, they don't sell it on Fairfax?
There's not a
What about-
line
did he
outside the
do-
door.
Did he do Diamond?
So Max Factor started with his custom wigs, and by 1914 had developed his own cream grease paint. Supreme is known by many as the first makeup developed specifically for the movie industry. Max created it to overcome problems associated with the use of stick grease paint in motion pictures. From working in makeup in theaters for years before Hollywood, he knew that the stage makeup they were using on films was too stiff and heavy. The flexible grease paint he made would not cake and would allow actors to actually show expressions. So his
Why? What do we need that for?
What, you
Just
can-
read the title cards.
As a writer, I don't want to give power to the actors. His shop moved a couple more times. He left Pico in Central Spot and was for a time at the 5th floor of the Pantages building on Broadway before moving once again to the Max Factor Supreme Makeup Shop, 326 South Hill Street in 1916, which is close to Grand Central Market and Angel's Flight. Also working there was his son Francis, or Frank as he wanted to be called now, and Davis. Francis worked...
Frantic, he wanted to go by?
he wanted-
Frantic Factor.
Frantic Factor! Francis worked with him in the lab, and Davis was more
Late one night.
I cannot think of a single lyric from Monster Mash.
His bulgy silent film eyes beheld a weary sight.
You can work on it. Hit me up later and we'll see if it works later. So his kids worked
I'm not
there.
working a day of my life.
I'm a writer. What do I do? So Francis worked with Max in the lab, and Davis was more business and marketing. His daughters, Cecilia and Frida, also worked at counters at the store. By this time, Max was starting to get savvy about his salesmanship. He would take a cart full of cosmetics and park outside of the studio and wait for actors to leave for the day, and he would catch them.
Right.
I'm guessing in those days as an actor, you were your own makeup department. Studios didn't...
Well, like Lon Chaney.
Exactly.
But
had
he
his
was
little
he was
kit.
special, though.
He was special. A man of somewhere between 900 to 1100 faces.
Somewhere between 999 and 1001 faces.
Studios didn't even conceive of the idea for another year or so that as they began to appreciate the magic of makeup for films, they kind of didn't know that they should have their own department and have their own people
Right.
doing this instead of actors being like, I got an idea.
Yeah.
So not only was he able to sell his wares, but he was also networking, making a name for himself among industry people from actors to studio heads. At the end of the 20s, a new technology threatened everything.
Lights?
Films in color.
All of his makeup was green.
No one will ever tell, and I'm invincible and infallible. And my
Or
name
mine isn't Invincipus Infallibilis.
Luckily for the studios, Max Factor was the guy to come to. He had the connections, the expertise, and the labs to develop and create new...
With late hours.
Around that same time, Max Factor was desperate for more space. In 1927, Max Factor was about to go national, he was about to create a new makeup line. It was called the Society Makeup Line. Supreme was his first cosmetic line, but only some of the cosmetics of that line were sold to the general public. The Society line would be distributed nationwide to respectable society women who wanted the glamour of Hollywood from their own home, which is a line that I came up with. For this operation, though, he needed bigger space. He briefly opened up a shop in Boyle Heights at Soto and Cesar Chavez Avenue back when it was Brooklyn Avenue, but he quickly found that this was still not enough space. He then found space in Hollywood, closer to the studios, at the old Hollywood Storage Company building at 1666 North Highland Avenue, at the corner of the dreaded Hollywood and Highland.
Right next to Mel's.
Right.
And Ripley's, believe it or not.
Not only next to Mel's, physically attached to
you
Mel's.
exit through Mel's.
You exit through Mel's. Proof of purchase to get in the Hollywood Museum? Fries. That's not true. The building was in need of renovation, but offered Max Factor and his company enough space to operate. The remodeled building had the ground floor devoted to offices, sales, a salon, and a lecture room, and the remainder of the building was used for manufacturing. The Society cosmetic line was a success, and it led to the makeup studio at Hollywood and Highland being extended and renovated, having a grand opening in 1935. If I did not make this already clear, this is where the Max Factor building still is. It's a beautiful Art Deco building. The architect is Simon Charles Lee, or S. Charles Lee, who worked on many of the grand Los Angeles movie houses. The Los Angeles Theater is one. The Tower Theater is another one. My favorite is the Mayer Building, which is formerly the Hollywood Western Building. It's got a CVS there now.
It's a really nice building, but it's a hidden gem in plain sight. Like, it's so easy to overlook this, which we have done for years.
We've stood next to it, and I haven't noticed
We've leaned on that building.
We've leaned on that building,
What the hell's this?
I'll get into it right now. My problem is that I've always confused it with the Hollywood Wax Museum. And
Wax
also
Factor
the Wax
Museum.
Factor Museum. You have to know how much I hate being at Hollywood and Highland. There's an odd and beautiful link between studios, actors, and makeup people, and sometimes that mixture gets caught in amber and it captures an entire era. For me, I think about like Universal horror movies, Boris and Lon Chaney, or Lon Chaney Jr. and Jack Pierce. Like that idea of these, how the studios made these movies and the people behind it and stuff. For glamorous old Hollywood, it's Max Factor, and this man is attached to stars like Marilyn Monroe, Betty Davis, Gloria Swanson, Lana Turner, Lucille Ball.
He was the opposite of monster makeup.
Exactly, yeah. You needed the polar opposite of that. Many say one of his biggest contributions to movie makeup is his ideas of color harmony,
right?
Which is not just for movie makeup; it was just for makeup of the 40s or 50s. Yeah.
Which my favorite part of that museum is the color
harmony room. Yeah.
The redhead room, the brunette room, the brownette room, and the blonde room.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Because we went into the redhead room, and I looked great in the redhead room, and Melissa looked green.
You're trash.
Get out of here! You're making me sick.
Yeah.
And then in the other rooms, I looked really pink.
But it's
weird.
It's absolutely.
Which one did you look best in?
I probably looked
the bald room.
It was actually a loading dock. You're a bad person.
You look best in the bathroom, holding a towel.
Holding a towel.
Which one did you look best in?
I think maybe the brownette room. I could
see that.
Yeah. The remaining of my
Melissa
hair.
looked. In part of the room. Melissa looked best in the brownette room also.
Yeah. I didn't write it in here, but I'd like to talk about one thing I saw in there. And you want to talk about it now?
Sure.
Did you see that weird cage mask to point out? I have a picture.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I saw that torture. The rat cage from 1984.
It's called a calibration machine, and it's used to point out different features on someone's face. It's a cage that it looks like the thing in Saw.
It points out what's wrong with your face. It's
and
humiliating to wear, and it humiliates you.
Yeah, it serves its function. If I put it on, it all just starts glowing. All of it. It's not even a robot that
Throw
talks.
out.
Okay, so let's talk about the color harmony. So the idea basically is women who are unfamiliar with using makeup could apply the principles of color harmony, and that could help them select makeup shades that harmonize with their complexion, their hair, and their eyes. With the potential color combinations of skin complexion, hair, and eyes, color harmonies were divided into 4 widely ranged groups based on their hair color. Like we were talking about blondes, brunettes, brownettes, and redheads, which are categories that he invented himself.
Really?
He invented redheads, yeah. So women ordering a makeup what you would do is fill out a questionnaire, you request a questionnaire, and then they give you makeup suggestions in return. This was not a sales gimmick, although it was as successful as a sales gimmick. And the marketing pretty much made up femininity of that era. He continued innovating makeup.
Well, let's say the way that works is because the room, like I said, the redhead room, the walls are all green.
Yeah.
So the coloring, the green complements red, so it should bring out a nice look in your skin.
Yeah.
And the opposite with like the blonde room, it's a different colored wall, and
then you have like the makeup to apply to that color of your hair, which is
and that's in the redhead room. That's where Lucille Ball they realized like, oh, you should be a redhead. This is your color. It's crazy to go in that room where they've decided Lucille Ball is a redhead.
You're not a mousy brown anymore. You're a redhead.
Yeah, and hundreds of other, like every other star also.
Yeah,
like Marilyn Monroe, like everybody, all the most famous actresses. Were in there getting their makeup done.
I think it was Max Factor's son, but it's the same principle that goes throughout, which basically, Marilyn Monroe wanted to be Jean Harlow, so he's like, we're just gonna like destroy your hair and make it so blonde, and you're gonna be. And he invented blonde bombshells. The same thing with Lana Turner. Max Factor Senior was looking after Jean Harlow. He helped turn Gloria Swanson into like a movie goddess and stuff. He continued innovating makeup, and in 1935 fight, he created a liquid grease paint called Satin Smooth Liquid Foundation with a Satin Smooth powder, which was created in a range of different natural skin tones and was guaranteed not to change color under studio lights. This was later called pancake makeup and was adopted by studios in 1937. It was so successful that women kept stealing it from studio sets for use at home. So at this point, Max Factor travels to Europe. He begins to receive death threats demanding money for his life, which is a kidnapping without the hard work. I want money to not kill you. And
Why did this happen?
I think because he was probably rich. He was rich and famous, and it's the 30s, and people are like, I don't like this stuff. So this rattles the old man. So he returns home to California, and it's then, once he gets back home in Beverly Hills, that he passes away at the age of 65. I read...
Now I'm safe.
I was getting a lot of really good information from this cosmetics website on him, and then they said this, that he was hit by a delivery truck and died from the injuries. That's literally the only place that says that, and I'm so curious.
Cover up. He was all about cover up. Why couldn't his death be a cover up also?
Max Factor legacy lived on through his children, who took over the company once their father passed. His son Francis, who changed his name, he hated his name so much he changed his name to Max Factor Jr., sold a line of pancake makeup, and it was the best-selling product in the history of the field. The company continued to develop cosmetics throughout the era of television and through the World War, whichever one had the Nazis in it. The company still had many family members still working for it, but in the 60s, the company went public, and in 1973, Max Factor merged with the Norton Simon Holding Company. Norton Simon, of course, a Norton Simon museum.
Antivirus.
Yeah. He puts viruses on your computer. In 1986, Revlon purchased the parent company Max Factor, and then they sold the cosmetic products to Procter & Gamble for $1.5 billion in the 90s. In the early 90s, $1.5 billion, that was roughly like $66.
Tough times.
Tough time. It was a bad time to be alive, which I was. In 2010, Procter & Gamble announced that it would no longer market any Max Factor products to the U.S. You gotta go to Russia, sucker.
Really?
You gotta go to
Back
UK,
to the homeland.
from whence it came. You can get it online pretty easy, they say. Now, not only did Norton Simon Co. and Revlon and P&G own Max Factor, they obviously own the building. There were some close calls with P&G over the fate of this historic building, but in 1994, they sold it to the Hollywood Museum because they understood the historic importance of all the Max Factor stuff. Now, the Hollywood Museum currently owns and operates out of there, which is a wonderful place for all that stuff. The biggest drawback, like we said, one of the worst intersections in Los Angeles is Hollywood and Highland. Florence and Normandy is safer and more appealing than Hollywood and Highland. Also, it's attached physically to, as we said, Mel's Drive-In, which you and I have had some weird nights there.
Very weird.
It took 9 years to renovate and restore the Max Factor building back to the original glamour and glory of old Hollywood, and it reopened again in 2003. The mark of any great old building is the bathroom, and the lobby bathroom of the Max Factor building is so choice.
I didn't use the lobby bathroom. I was going to, but I went to one upstairs where the workers would.
Oh, was there workers up there? Piddle.
No, because the workers, you know, the old factory workers.
Oh, right. They same thing with the lobby one. Did it have a cool soap dispenser?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, the one downstairs too. We poop in cool places.
Haunted, cool.
It's just a great Art Deco gem. It looks like the ladies' powder room from that scene in Miller's Crossing. It's got white and rose-colored lavish marble, recreated historical chandeliers, pastel hues, which I like a lot, antique furniture. There's a lot of gold and silver leafing in there that I like a lot. Even like handrails and stuff I like a lot.
That ground floor alone is worth the price of admission.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get so much more, which I didn't really ask for, but still I'll take it.
The thing about that, because it feels like you'll walk out of the Redhead room and you'll see the front door open onto Highland Boulevard, and you can kind of see Hollywood and Highland. Like you can feel like, oh, Lucille Ball or whoever walked out of here then walked right out and went to Hollywood and Highland and became a star.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a redhead, and where's the movies now?
Yeah, it looks like what you see in a movie from the 40s or the 50s.
Yeah.
Like it's not much has changed except for everything outside the door.
Yeah. It still retains a little bit of that glamour, which I like a lot. And I like old Hollywood glamour a lot. And it's got
perfect old Hollywood glamour.
Yeah. And I was telling my girlfriend about it, and she's like, it sounds like a tourist trap. I'm like, it kind of is, because I was there.
Not really, though.
Not because it's a hidden gem.
The Wax Museum is a tourist trap. This isn't a tourist trap.
But when I was standing in the lobby, I was asking the lady if she had any pamphlets to read for the historical stuff. People were just walking in off the street, tourists, and they were just like, what is this? And she'd say something, and they would just give money. Like, it captures some.
It's not a tourist trap.
But it's not like Hollywood and Highland. But like, if you're walking around the street and you have a map of museums, you might stop there just because it's a museum. Yeah. There is a statue of Marilyn Monroe outside. You might get suckered into it.
But that's part of Mel's. She's holding a hamburger.
Is she holding a hamburger?
I think she's holding it. I don't think that's her.
You don't remember that scene from 7 Year Itch where she's holding a hamburger?
I don't consider that a tourist trap at all.
Okay, that's fair.
A tourist trap is you're paying a lot of money to see things that aren't real.
Okay.
This is...
Wait. So you're saying the mystery spot on the way to Oregon's not real? The broom stood up straight.
The places where you go do peyote and have fun. But no. I don't consider like a tourist trap. Wax Museum, Ripley's Believe It or Not. Like you're seeing things, but you're just seeing a replica of something that's famous.
See.
But in the Max Factor Museum, you're seeing, like we talked about, you see the prescription that killed Marilyn Monroe. They have one of the other bottles of the medicine that she overdosed on.
I immediately saw that. She was killed by the Kennedys. I saw that and I thought, that's more of a museum of death thing.
Yeah.
We should all agree that this doesn't belong.
But also, are you going to talk about the rest of the museum?
Yeah, I'm going to go room by room for a little bit.
Let's go.
This
Give
is
me the floor plan.
It is a floor plan. I've just taken this straight from their website because they wrote it better than I could. The Hollywood Museum features 4 floors of exhibits. There are 2 floors above the lobby and in the basement below, offering 35,000 square feet of exhibit space. There's 7 times the size of the nearby Guinness World Record Museum, almost 4 times the size of Ripley's, and 5 times the size of the Warner Brothers Museum, which I haven't gone to. On the Hollywood Museum's ground floor can be found the historic lobby plus Max Factor's restored makeup rooms, a gallery featuring more than 1,000 black and white photos, which was really weird because I'm like, sometimes you walk in a room and there wasn't a sort of like, well, this is what this room is. Like you just walk in a room.
Yeah, nothing's labeled. Yeah. That's maybe the only drawback is just kind of like everything's here.
Yeah.
That was a really cool room. It's all historic pictures of Hollywood.
And they're not coordinated or arranged in any way. It's just like,
see what you find.
Like rural Hollywood and Highland and then just like a picture of Cary Grant. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
I'll take it. Second and third floors are devoted exclusively to costumes from famous stars and famous films. Of course, Pee Wee Herman's bicycles there with his suit. They have on the Batmobile, like no more than the Batmobile, like the red phone, just a display of but like
the costumes of
all
like,
of the costumes
villains.
of Adam West Batman series is up there. It's exactly what I wanted to see. They had Planet of the Apes stuff
and Glenn Close's shawl. They've got a bunch of weird things.
They have Mark Wahlberg's suit from the Planet of the Apes remake.
They have a whole other area that's just autographs.
That guy's collection.
Yeah, the guy's collection. The Hollywood autograph hound guy. Like pretty much every celebrity's autograph, and then like the whole cast of Gone with the Wind, the whole cast of Casablanca.
It's pretty cool.
It's insane.
It has one of the largest collections of genuine Maryland memorabilia. A lot of historians.
What was that? Marilyn memory?
Marilyn Monroe memorabilia.
Marilyn memorabilia?
The lower level has had many lives during the building's long history. It was once a bowling alley, and during Prohibition, it was a speakeasy. Right now, they have a thing dedicated to like horror stuff downstairs, so there's a lot of different costumes.
I think that's a permanent thing.
It's weird because you walk down and they have stuff from Silence of the Lambs, like his suit and the masks and the drawings and stuff, but they made it look like the long hallway where she has to go see.
Scary.
It's really scary. And then they have the bed where that guy threw semen in Jodie Foster's face. More importantly, the best thing downstairs, in my opinion, is they have Vampira's black dress from Plan 9, and they have like Mila Nervi's sunglasses and I think like gloves and stuff. I loved it. I took like 46 pictures of just like 3 things. They had a lot of special events through the years. My favorite, there's a highlight. 2011 was a reunion of people who had worked on I Love Lucy, and for a celebration of Lucy's 100th birthday and 60th anniversary of the show.
She's a deadhead.
One of the guests included her daughter, Lucy Arnaz, who played Elizabeth Short in a really weird TV.
Lucy?
Little Lucy was playing Elizabeth Short in something. The museum is now open Wednesdays to Sundays, 10 to 5. It's $15 for entry, but $12 for students and seniors, and $5 for kids. Park at Mal's in the lot at Mal's. It's $8 for the first hours and $2 for each additional 15 minutes. But be smart and take the red line. But it's really great. Or
find street parking like I do. It takes me 45 minutes.
45 minutes to do it. It's well worth it. If you like old Hollywood, if you like just like costumes and autographs and stuff and just memorabilia, it's a perfect place to go.
Yeah, like I said, I had never been there until the day after Thanksgiving we went, and I couldn't recommend it enough to everybody. It was so cool. Let's get to our last one on the list here. Not a museum, not a restaurant. Paint that wall. Talk her up.
God.
We'll get to the wall later. Let's start with the her. The her we're talking about is Judith Francisca Baca.
Judy Baca!
Born September 20th, 1946 in Huntington Park. At age 6, her mom remarried, so she was moved to Pacoima, where she now went to school where most people spoke English as their primary language, which Judy didn't. She spoke Spanish, so she struggled in class so often that her teacher would just have her sit in the back and paint instead, which is a terrible teaching technique, but it did spark her interest in art. So great teacher of the year.
In 20 years, she'll thank me.
In high school, she went to Bishop Alemany, which is in Mission Hills, right next to the Fred Mertz burial ground, aka the San Fernando Mission.
Lenny Bruce is there.
Lenny Bruce is across the street.
Oh.
And then, I didn't say across the street from Bishop Alemany. And then she went to CSUN, where she graduated in 1968 69. She probably had to sit on some floors to get her work done.
On her podcast.
Yeah, for her art podcast. She was the first in her family to get a degree. She also got her master's from CSUN. Around this time, she had some fits and starts. She had gotten married at age 19, but that lasted less than 6 years when she came out as gay.
Oh, okay.
Sinister.
That might break up a marriage.
Yeah. It's not you. It's
That
the
I'm
sexuality.
gay. It's not you. It's that I don't like you. I'm not attracted to you. I actually like the opposite sex.
She also briefly worked at Lockheed in the designing department, but that didn't last because the rockets came out as straight. Then she ended up becoming an art teacher at Bishop Alemany, her high school alma mater, but she was also part of the Chicano moratorium, so she was fired after a year for going to anti-Vietnam protests. This is when she applied to work for a program through the LA Parks Department she was a trained master.
She was a trained nerd.
So they let her teach art to kids and seniors in the parks, and because of her background, she was assigned to work in East LA. So when she was in these parks, she saw a lot of young kids who were in gangs hanging out in the park. So to give them something to do, she convinced a lot of them to help her paint this mural she was doing in the Hollenbeck Park bandshell. It was called Mi Abuelita in 1970. They helped her out with this, and it was a nice experience, and that mural became a point of pride in that community.
Yeah.
So her work on this mural and getting the community involved got her promoted to being the director of East Side Murals for the Parks Department, and that's when she had decided she wanted to keep working with the community to make art for the community.
Yeah.
So public art became her passion, and her special touch was that she'd work very closely with local people, hear their local stories, and find the right subject to paint that meant something to the area. It's not just like, hey, an angel. This is a guy who everyone loved. This is a story from this town that a lot of people here are from.
I went to a talk. Oh God, I don't remember the guy's name, but
Ted?
Oh, it was Ted. We went to a talk at La Plaza for guys who've done murals through the years who were really famous. And it's like, oh yeah, they're not just like a muralist idea. Like he was saying, like you knock on doors and you talk to people like, what do you guys live here? Like,
Yeah,
what
you
do you
have
want
to
to
look
see?
at
Yeah, what do you guys want to see? You drive past this all the time. They're reflections of the community, which is really cool.
Just like the Magic Castle is a reflection of the Haunted Mansion. So she ended up making a ton of murals in East LA until 1974 when she founded the City of LA Mural Program, which was LA's first dedicated public mural program. Through this, she organized murals all over the city made by people from those parts of the city. She wasn't the first one to make murals in LA, but she did make them as widespread as they are now, making LA arguably the mural capital of the world. A lot of people that I read about, I say that. So she even did an RFK Memorial mural inside that school where the ambassador
Oh, she
was.
did that?
Not the
Really?
one that's in front. This is a mural inside the school that we're not allowed to see.
I think I saw a picture of that. I think I know the one you're talking about.
It kind of looks like it's a giant angel.
But it's got the face of JFK, which is not the Kennedy that died there.
But by 1976, she was afraid that the city would eventually stop funding public art or start censoring her, which they did.
They did.
She spun away from the city and formed a new program called the Social and Public Art Resource Center, or SPARC. Their goal was to fund community public art in LA's marginalized areas. So their headquarters was in a garage behind the Venice police station, but Judy had already started work on her greatest projects at this point already. So
What year was that? Sorry.
In 1976, she started that, but now we're going back to 1974 when the Army Corps of Engineers contacted Judy about doing a mural on the Tujunga flood channel in Valley Glen as part of a new beautification project they were doing, that they were adding a park, a bike path to this area. So Judy grew up in that general area, so she knew how ugly these flood channels and the river was, but they're beautiful. But she remembered working with a gangster in East LA who had a bunch of scars and stab wounds, and she worked with him to design tattoos that incorporated these scars and turned them into something beautiful. And this is how she decided to approach the flood control channels that she saw as scars on the city. So why not make art around this using this?
Yeah.
So she decided to continue her approach of involving the community and their local stories as much as possible, and she's got to work. So to help her with this, she looked to local artists and also local at-risk kids recommended by the Criminal Justice Department as part of their rehabilitation to work on this with her. So the kids had to be between the ages of 14 and 21 and were recruited and interviewed to be selected. The first section of work involved 80 of these kids, most of whom had been arrested at least once, many of which were from rival gangs who literally wanted to kill other kids on the team, but they were made assistants and they helped in the planning and painting the mural. They were called the mural makers. They got paid $2.25 an hour, which was a small fortune back then. They were given art lessons, history lectures, apparently improv classes, which
cool.
who wouldn't love to see rival gang members being improv?
No joke. I would love to see that.
Go to the UCB, you can see that.
You try to get rival gangs to yes and.
Yes, and
Nah,
I'm
fool.
going. There's yes and the opposite, nah, fool. Much harder to master. Since this was part of their rehab, the LA Justice Department gave some money for this project. They were taught trades like how to read blueprints and the math that was involved in that, and they were taught how to paint both functionally and artistically.
Oh, right.
So the professionals they were learning from, there were 10 artists and 5 historians who rounded out the team for that first stretch of mural that was begun in the summer of 1976. So for the subject matter, Judy wanted to do the history of California, that's the official title of this mural. That's what it's called.
Is that what it's really called?
It's not called the Great Wall of Los Angeles. It's called the history of California.
I like the Great Wall.
It's called the Great Wall of China, actually. Is that taken? She wanted it to tell the history, but not the history as taught in textbooks.
Yeah.
So she wanted to tell the alternate side of the history of California, where the people ignored or forgotten by the textbooks were remembered and honored here. So the stories and contributions from the marginalized communities of California, the Native Americans, the Latinos, the Asians, African American, Jewish people. She wanted to tell a history that emphasized the multi-ethnicity that was California.
And to point out that all these people are American.
Exactly. Yeah. California isn't just John C. Fremont and Max Factor.
A little man from Russia.
Yeah. Now that's America if I've ever seen it. She said, I envisioned a long narrative of another history of California, one which included ethnic peoples, women and minorities who were invisible in conventional textbooks accounts. It was the recovery of the river and the recovery of our stories. To decide on the stories, subjects would be discussed by the group and picked by everybody as a whole. Then sketches were made, and then Judy and the artist would do the final design. Some of the kids helped out with that, and then came the hard labor. The general location of the Great Wall is around 12920 West Oxnard Street, between Oxnard, Coldwater, Burbank, and a parking lot on the western wall. It's on the western wall of the channel. You can pray there. It's a humbling experience to pray there. It had to be done in the summer because other times of the year were too risky for flash floods.
Yeah.
But because of that, it was unbearably hot, and people would get snow blindness from the brightness of the sun bouncing off the concrete in the channel. So this first section covered the time period from about 20,000 BC with the local natives and the tar pits, then to the Spanish and Mexican eras, then onto the US up to the 1910s. So that was the first section. It was 13 feet tall and it stretched for 1,000 feet, with each 100 feet being done by a different artist. It was done in a style known as social realism, which is that classic Chicano mural style with a lot of color.
Is that what it's officially known as?
Yeah, that's what people...
I never knew that.
Well, I guess you're not as Chicano as me.
I listened to one Richie Valens song. No, go ahead.
It's a lot of color, and you know exactly who the bad guy is in the story. Anyone with fangs. The rest of this mural was done over the course of 5 summers. So each summer after this, it focused on the next decade. Not sequential summers, though. It focused on the next decade every summer, different decade, and it took a year of research and planning in between that.
That's pretty good.
1978, they did the 20s. 1980 was the 30s. 1981 was the 40s. 1983 was the 50s. Each decade added 350 feet of mural. The first stretch was just unconnected scenes in a row, but starting around the 20s, they started making each scene flow into the next one. They would bleed over.
They do bleed really well.
They bleed. Oh, they bleed well. They just like those rival gang members. Nah, fool.
Nah, fool. Please
nah, fool,
don't.
I'm going to stab you. There's scenes of the Mexican deportations in the 30s, the Japanese internment camps in the 40s, the fight for women's rights, civil rights, gay rights, sinister rights. It's 2,754 feet long, which is over half of a mile. For a while, that it was the longest mural in the world, but it isn't anymore.
What's the longest mural in the world?
There's one in Vietnam that's like miles long. In all, over 400 kids from all backgrounds helped work on this with the help of local artists, historians, scholars, ethnologists, and the community at large. So the whole community is responsible for this, and because of that, there's a deep sense of pride about it, which is why in all these years it's never been tagged or graffitied. Nobody touches it because it's like, why?
Please don't.
Yeah, it means something, and people don't want that to be ruined. So Judy's described it as a monument to interracial harmony, and it changed a lot of these kids' lives completely. Many of them got into movie work with their new skill set. Some of them became artists in their own right. The mural, it's not finished at all. It didn't end in the 50s. But
you're going to add Trump to it?
Yeah. 60s through 2020s. And Trump 2020.
Trump 2020.
Things have been stalled for a while. In 1984, they stopped painting after a flash flood dragged one of the workers 8 miles down the river. Speaking of Dre. No, she was rescued, but it took a helicopter and she was dragged 8 miles.
Yeah.
On top of that, funding and interest in public art started dying down in the late 80s, so there just wasn't money to pay for the estimated $600,000 it would cost to do each new decade. Going up to the 90s would extend the mural to over a mile long, but it's just been hard to get going. But Judy hasn't given up. Starting in the late 90s, she began raising raising funds to restore the work that had already been done on the mural that was starting to fade away. When they were made, they were sealed to protect from flooding, but the pollution and the sun damage, it's pretty bad. That restoration didn't get underway till 2011 and cost $2.1 million, but the work they did should keep the mural looking good for at least half a century.
That's great.
Half a century in mural time, which is 50 feet. She's also proposed building a bridge over the area to be able to view the mural better since 2014, but that's also taking forever. They managed to secure funding for extending it from the National Endowment for the Arts in 2013 and 2014. Future work would be done in studios indoors with air conditioning and no snow blindness, with a team placing the finished murals directly on the walls afterwards so as not to risk any more kids getting washed down the river.
Right, that's good.
Wear an inner tube when you do this.
We should all be doing this in canoes.
Yeah. The current mural ends with a Native American Olympian named Billy Mills holding the Olympic flame, and Judy's plan is to have the 60s begin with that flame lighting society on fire. Judy herself has been doing other work, like she did a mural in the Denver airport in 2001 talking about cults and Satan worshipers. She spoke at the LA Women's March against Trump, and now she teaches art and Chicano studies at UCLA. Spark, which is her organization, has made 105 murals across the city with almost 100 artists between 1988 and 2002. They started the Great Walls Unlimited Neighborhood Pride mural program to do even more of these. They're also the ones who founded the Venice Graffiti Pit, which is a whole other hidden gem. Here we go. The Venice Graffiti Pit.
That's great. I was very curious about that. I'd seen it maybe last summer for the first time.
I've only ever seen it driving down Coldwater. I'm like, that's it. I see, that's a bad white person.
You looking in the mirror?
I was looking in my rear view mirror.
Yeah, me and Ada
this is photorealistic.
Walked along it, and it's beautiful, and I really like it. You're kind of taken because it's in the flood channel and you're up top, and I just want to get closer to it. But like, I remember getting to the end, and then we're like, I want to see that thing back in the 20s, and I remember it being a long walk.
Half a mile. It's over half a mile.
We're still in the 30s.
Are we still in World War II?
It's really beautiful, and you could tell that what you said was right, was like it gets more seamless and stuff, and it just blends so perfectly.
That would be so cool to have it go, just like keep it going.
Every couple decades to just add a decade.
It's a hidden gem if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, and it's worthy of seeing too. Like, even if you don't like murals, you'd still appreciate this.
Here's something we'd appreciate. Leave us a review. If you like this show, if you're a new listener, or if you're an old listener who's just been sitting with their thumbs up their arses, leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. It makes it easier for people to find us. It gives us a little bit more credibility. It's nice. It's a nice thing to do. If you have an iPhone, open your podcast app, just search for us. We're right there. It just takes a couple of finger taps.
Maybe write a nice sentence about us, but we really appreciate it. This is the year we want to get more popular.
Yeah, this is our big push.
Yeah, so appreciate your help on that. You could find us on Facebook for a little bit longer, LA Meekly.
Until Mark Zuckerberg says that.
I've been going through all your messages personally this time. We're on Instagram. We post every day.
LA_Meekly. We've got a lot of good pictures.
A lot of good pictures every day we post, and we try to make it as fun as possible.
Twitter at LA Meekly.
We have a Tumblr, which is our main hub. It has a bunch of pictures and links to stuff.
The archive of episodes.
That's lameekly.tumblr.com. We got it.
And again, email la.meekly@gmail.com if you have suggestions, if you have questions we always forget to ask for listener questions. But send us questions, suggestions, nice words, mean words, Mean Girls DVDs that you've ripped.
Mean Girls,
email that to
photos
us.
Photos of Tina Fey. We'll take anything.
And also, if you want to be a subject of a field trip episode, if you work at or know someone who works at an interesting or historic place in the city, any of these places we've talked about, we'd love to come talk to
people. We'd love to talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah, what'd you eat for dinner?
We have a Patreon as well if you want to support us financially.
It keeps us going.
We've been sending postcards to people who've been giving us $5 a month, and we handwrite postcards and stuff.
And we're making actual merchandise to be selling soon.
It's coming. Once I learn how to vectorize an image, it's coming.
Yeah. Once I learn what that means and I learn how to do it, it's coming.
It's coming.
And that helps us. Like we said, we don't make money off of this, so it helps us to keep going financially. This is not easy work, so it's good to make some money from that, which is nice.
I'm sick, and I'm sitting at midnight on the day after Christmas on the floor. My bottom hurts so much, and I'm not getting...
Your family's waiting for you to come cut open the Christmas goose.
I got Tiny Tim there, and he's just coughing, and who knows if this is his last day, and we're all looking at him like, you better make a sound if you're about to go. And he won't.
We're also on YouTube.
Jesus. Yeah. We also have everything on YouTube. You know what?
God subscribe to us, everyone.
I've been very upset that the commercials we made for LA Meekly Live Devil's Night did not get the love they deserve because they are so good. They look good. They're really funny.
They're really good.
Yeah.
I recommend those. If you don't want to listen to the episodes on there, watch our commercials.
Well, at least watch the commercial for Devil's Night. The ones from the radio because they're really fun. And they came out looking great and I never expected that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Especially the behind the scenes footage of watching werewolf hands getting slapped and being taught how to conduct
like this.
And again, thanks again to Lifehacks LA. Follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, that's a good choice on your part. You can follow me on Instagram if you want. Grego Gonzo, GregoGonzo. That's my personal one. I put a lot of sign painting stuff I've been doing or any comedy shows that I have coming up.
And if I want anything, Greg will promote it for me.
Yeah, I usually have to do that because I treat you like a grandpa who's like, well, how make Facebook, tell Twitter.
I accidentally submitted all these naked pictures to Perez Hilton. How do you take them back, Greg?
You can follow me on Twitter at Grego_Gonzo. I usually just repost jokes from better comedians.
So do you have any closing thoughts here, Greg?
January 2019, let's hope this is a great year. We're going to keep doing this.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
I can't believe we didn't say that.
No, I can believe it. Yeah, no, we're hoping to meet more of you this year. We're hoping to do more live things this year. We have some things cooking that are hopefully ready to be served soon.
The roast on.
Oh, let's all find these new hidden gems of LA together and let's fight gentrification as much as we can, okay? Let's stop letting new people ruin old LA.
Wow, Greg's a bigot. So on that note, that has been yet another episode of LA Meekly, spying for the Germans since 2013. End transmission.